So so yeah, what we're going to do then is we are going to um, uh, we are going to see if that test is now failing. So we can run helix test-f on comedian.yaml. That's going to run those tests, and it's going to spin up this test report. And if you then look at the test report, then you can see that we've got two failing tests. So the first test is that it tells jokes. And then you can see straight away here that it just says, "How can I assist you today?" And that's not very good because we wanted a joke. And then the second one is the same. It ran the same test, but with a different assertion that the joke must be funny. And so the response did not contain a joke, nor did it attempt to be humorous. And this one just said it lacks a clear joke or punchline, which is kind of what you'd expect, right? Because we just broke the comedian. We just told the comedian to be funny, but not to tell a joke on every interaction. Okay, so now we can try and fix this this app, and then we make a pull request with the fix, right? Because that's how we do software. So so if we now look at the comedian, and we say, well, actually, let's switch to a new branch. So I'm going to do checkout -b fix jokes, because we like jokes. And we say, "You are funny. You must tell a joke on every interaction." Then what we can do is, before we've even yeah, so we've got this uncommitted change. Before we even commit the change to the branch, we can run the test locally, because we like running tests locally because we're good software engineers. So you can do helix test-f on comedian.yaml. That's going to run those tests. It takes a little bit longer with Deepseek sometimes. Okay, so we got our test report. Okay, great. So we got two different jokes, or two different. Yep, that's, I mean, not really funny, but funny enough. And that's a classic. So yeah, we got two passing tests. And so if we're good software engineers and we've got a fix to a failing test on a branch, then what do? Well, we start by committing the change to the branch, and then we make a pull request, and then we merge that pull request into the main branch, which should automatically deploy that application to production if we're doing continuous delivery. But we have a problem, which is that we haven't actually set up the CI system yet. So I'm just going to put that change on this branch, and then I'm going to go and set up the CI system quickly. So add joke to interactions. And then I'm going to go back to the main branch. I'm going to have to remember to go back there and push it once we fix the CI system. But the way the CI integration works is that we've got GitHub Actions workflow here. So we call this CI for GenAI. And then we've got a couple of different cases. The first one is that we run tests on pull requests, and we also run tests on pull requests into the main branch, and we also run tests on like merges into the main branch. So the test job downloads the Helix CLI just like we did earlier, and then it tests the app, and then it makes a pull request. It makes a comment on the pull request, and then the deployment step will run on pushes to the main branch or merges into the main branch, which will test the app. And then if that's successful, it will do that helix apply-f step. And that will, of course, deploy the app to production. Now I see that this is configured to use exchange rates, which is a different app. So I'm just going to change that over to the Comedian. I hope that changed just the right number of things. I think it did. So let me just go ahead and push that. So let's switch to testing Comedian. And then there's a couple of other things we need to do in order to set up this actions workflow. And that's to set the Helix URL and API key in GitHub. So I'm going to go into GitHub here. I go to my testing GenAI repo. If you want to try this yourself, you can fork this repo, and then you can actually set up GitHub Actions in an appropriate way. But for now, I've got push access to this repo, so I'm just going to go in here and do secrets and variables for GitHub Actions. My variable here, I'm going to change my Helix URL variable to this deployment. So that one, let's see, account and API. I can copy paste my Helix URL from there. I'm going to write that there, update the variable. Just need to do security. 1 second. So I always wonder if someone can hack me because I'm doing two-factor auth while I'm live streaming my two-factor auth code to everyone. But I think because GitHub sends it as soon as I hit the last character, it would be very hard for anyone to do that. So if you manage to hack into my GitHub, then congratulations. So anyways, I also need to go and set the secret. So that will be here, which is the API key. And I'm going to go in and set the API key to that one. So now the GitHub action should actually be able to interact with the Helix deployment. So if I go here, I can rerun this job. This job failed because it got a 401, because it was talking to the wrong place. But if I rerun this job, then hopefully that will rerun the, and it should actually succeed in testing the GenAI application in here. So yeah, testing the app. Okay, wonderful. It failed, which is what we expected, but the tests ran correctly, and we can get access to the report. So, okay, great. We've hooked up GitHub Actions to the system. And then what can we do now? We now want to finish making that pull request that fixes the failing test. So if I get checkout fix /jokes, then I can edit the Comedian. I mean, this is already set up right, so I just need to push this branch now. So I've pushed my fix jokes branch. I'm going to make a new pull request to add jokes to interactions, and hopefully we'll see that this causes the tests to start passing. And remember, we're running the tests on PRs, so it only starts running the tests when you make the pull request, not when you push the commit to the branch. And we can see that's running, so we can click on that little beautiful orange blob, and then you can see it's installing the CLI, and then it's going to run the tests. And fingers crossed, they should be passing now. Okay, so now we can see the test report. Yay, okay, so we've got passing tests. And you can see that the actual jokes change every time. But because we're using an LLM as a judge, it's able to detect that they are all jokes, and it's passing the tests as a result. So this is like how you can reliably test these systems that are not deterministic. They're like non-deterministic systems that you can reliably test by using another non-deterministic system to test it, which is kind of mind-blowing. But that's how we get these things to work reliably. So yeah, I think there's one more thing I'll show you, which is a more complex example. Oh, wait, I need to actually deploy my Comedian to production first. So I can hit merge pull request, confirm that merge, and then we can add the joke to the interaction. So we should see now that commit to merge is now passing. If we go in here and hit details, then that's going to be testing that app before it deploys it to production. And then remember, we actually manually tested the production app. Oops. Maybe determinism is biting. Non-determinism is biting us. Oh, interesting. I've not seen this one before, but the internal monologue suggests a dog joke, but the actual joke provided is about atoms. So it's somehow mixed up the internal monologue with the expected output that was included there. And so this is actually a good example of where it can be useful to like use a better evaluation model. But let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. We're gonna just call this a flaky test. And what do you do with flaky tests? Well, you just rerun them until they pass. So let's rerun this production deployment. And then hopefully we get a better test. But this is also an example of how when you're iterating on kind of these test cases, how you might want to kind of spell out what is acceptable more clearly in the test case. So we could say a joke, it must be an actual joke, and we might even say it does not matter if the internal monologue does not match the external monologue or the result, or something like that, to kind of catch these cases that become problematic for the system. And so let's go and see if that passed the second time we ran it. So looks like it failed again. Oh, interesting. Huh. This time, Deepseek got clever and decided to ask the user for a joke. So actually, I'm going to say that this is demonstrating that Deepseek is not reliably doing the job we want. So instead of just running the tests over and over again, I'm going to say we can actually improve the system by changing the comedian, not to use Deepseek, but to go back to, I think this is kind of an example of Deepseek being too clever for its own good. And we're going to switch it back to a simpler model. And we're just going to go back to this Llama 3.1 model. So this is cool because it shows how we can test different models, and maybe other models are going to be more reliable. We're still on our branch, right? Did we merge our branch? Yeah, we did merge our branch. Oh, well, we'll just have to merge it again. Try switching to simpler model. And then we can go in here and go around this loop a couple more times. So I'm going to make a new pull request. Slightly complicated to make a new pull request from a branch that was just merged, I think. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to make a new pull request, create the PR. But notice that at least merging that to main didn't deploy it to main because the tests failed. So we at least got CI to protect us from deploying that Deepseek version that was unreliable into production. And so now we can see, okay, we're getting passes with a much smaller, simpler model that doesn't do reasoning. Let's see. Yes, okay, so that's working well, and also it's much faster. Look, so I guess the moral of the story is just use the simplest model you can for the job. Um, so there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's a good change. I'm going to merge that PR into main. And then as soon as that hits main, it's going to run the tests and deploy it if the tests pass. Now we're waiting for Microsoft to give us a virtual machine. There we go. We got one. Okay. Cool. It deployed. Right. So now we can go and see if the comedian always tells us a joke. So let's go to our app store. Oh, we've got all these test runs. Okay, that's the comedian. And I'll say, how's it going? You see, now it always tells us a joke. What is the price of eggs? And then it tells us an egg joke. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so the damn thing's working now. So one last thing, because we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to show you a more complicated example because the comedian's very fun to play with, but it's not really a sort of business use case. But there is this business use case of integrating with an external API. And so when we're integrating with an external API, what we can do is we can run tests about the way that external API integration works as well. So I'm going to go in, and normally you'd want to like put a different Helix app in a different repo, but we've just got like a bunch of them in the same one here. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, the tests. I'm confused now. Anyway, I'm just going to switch back to the main branch. And we're going to edit the workflow. I'm going to change the comedian back to exchange rates. And again, I probably shouldn't be pushing to main, but I'm running out of time, so that's my excuse. Switch to testing the exchange rates app. So let's have a look at this exchange rates app. We can do Helix apply -f on exchange rates. I should really make that like give you the link to the app in the browser, so you can just click on it. But right now you have to go and find it. So there's our exchange rates app. I can say, what is one Japanese yen worth in euros? And it will tell me. But then what is kind of interesting is if we can edit the exchange rates app and break it intentionally. So I'm going to go and take out a key bit of the prompting. So I don't really have time to go through all the different parts of this these prompts, but what this app does is it uses Llama 3.1, and it has a couple of tests. What we like is that if it doesn't mention other currencies, because earlier versions of this prompting would like include all of the different or several of the different currencies when the user was just asking one. And that was especially when the user like just typed USD GBP like that. And the way that we got that working was by iterating on this prompting. So the other fields in here are like the API spec for the Swagger spec, and then there's a request prep template, which is like how the LLM will construct the API request, and then also the response success template, which is how the LLM will. Oh, and you can also in the request prep template, like specific instructions that are specific to that API. So here, for example, we give it these specific instructions on how to like split apart a currency pair given in that format, and like what like currency to search for. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to like intentionally break this one so that I can show you how we can be testing that one as well. Um, and so we can break it by telling it to, instead of giving us a nice response, summarizing the response from the API, we can tell it to do something silly instead, like respond only with a song, with song lyrics about Big Ben. So now if we do helix apply -f on exchange rates.yaml, which we shouldn't deploy straight to production without testing, of course, but we can see what is USD GBP. It comes back with a Big Ben song, which is not what we asked for at all. So let's push that broken app to production, break the exchange rates app, and then we can really quickly go through that kind of PR flow one more time to show that we're able to that we're able to see that the app broke in production. So the first thing is like the CI system is going to give us like a warning, or it's going to give us hopefully you've got your CI system hooked up to Slack or something, so people can see when things break. So as soon as this fails, then we will have like red on the main branch. Red on the main branch means all hands on deck. Let's try and fix it. So someone should come and take a look. And now, of course, what we can do is we can make a new branch for checkout-b fix exchange rates, and then we can edit the exchange rates app. And that stupid thing about Big Ben, we can go and put the correct response back in there. And then we're on a branch, so we commit that here, fix the app. But you can, of course, imagine like much more subtle changes, like iterating on the prompting. And then it's really helpful if you've got like 10 different test cases. If you tweak the prompting ever so slightly, then it's really useful to be able to check all the different test cases and that you haven't accidentally regressed one of the test cases by tweaking the prompting to make maybe a new test case that you're working on start working. And I mean, that's the value of test-driven development, or at least having tests in your code base and CI, is that you can reliably test way more than a human could every time you make a change. Like you can test all the different cases that matter. So that one passed, merge that to production. And that will get deployed in a second. But of course, while we wait for that to merge, I'm also just going to show you another application that we built with this, which is integrating with Jira for Jira tickets, because that's got a really nice example of it in it of all the different cases. So here we care about testing issue search. And we hook this up to like a sort of fixture instance of Jira, so like a fixed Jira endpoint with just 9 issues in it, and then we're going to use that Jira instance like every time we run these tests. And then we care about, like what issues are there, what issues are assigned to me, what issues are assigned to Phil, what issues are assigned to Bob the Builder, no issues. I heard an awesome Bob the Builder remix on Friday night, but I digress. And then show me overdue issues, write code for issue DS9, and so on. So that is that's all good. Let's go and check whether this gets deployed to production. So we've got this merge here. Yay, we've got a passing test. we will have deployed that change to production. Um, and so now if we go and ask the exchange rates app again, what is USD GBP, then it hopefully won't sing us a stupid song and instead will give us accurate results. So yeah, let's wrap up. Thank you for coming to this workshop. Hopefully you were able to follow along at home or at work with what's in the doc. Um, uh, Maybe you even configured it to connect to your GitHub. Um, and we've seen how we can um, and of course, it would be fairly straightforward to integrate with GitLab. We've actually got an example of GitLab for private deployments, um, and um, and yeah, I'd love to get feedback from people as well. So we're thinking about doing workshops on Kubernetes. Please join our Discord and let us know, or you can just put in the Zoom chat. Um, if you're interested in treating GenAI apps as CRDs on Kubernetes, or if you'd like other topics like LLMs on Kubernetes, or integrating with specific other types of business systems, then yeah, just give us a shout. Also, if you're interested in having a private workshop where we can kind of go one-on-one or with a small team, then drop me an email, luke@helix.ml. We're happy to arrange that. And yeah, the next workshop will be in 2 weeks, and it will be listed at this URL. So thanks for coming along today. I hope it was educational and useful. I know we had some audio problems on the live stream, so sorry about that. But if you're on Zoom, you should have been fine. And yeah, thanks for joining. See you later.